But speaking of pricing, how does one go about like pricing your services as a drone pilot? Or yeah, how do you go about like pricing your services?
Man, that has been one of the toughest things that I've been trying to work out. So, fun story about my first client, that my first high paying client. I think we had the conversation about price early on, and they asked me, how much are you going to charge? And I was originally planning to say $200 a day. I slipped up and said $200 an hour. But when you work in sales, in certain situations, the first person that speaks loses the negotiation.
Mm.
So I messed up and said $200 an hour, and I said nothing after that. I just
Oh,
looked at them, and they agreed. So that's how I ended up with a rate of $200 an hour. Since then,
best paying mistake you ever made, huh?
right.
Oh man.
Since then, I've increased my prices, but that's it's negotiation is always about knowing who your client is and knowing what the market is willing to pay for. So most of my clients are either in the entertainment or construction industry,
Hmm.
and just knowing like what that clientele looks for and expects, you just have to know, knowing what those clients look for and expect helps you figure out what the pricing is. And also what I found recently is that chat gpt does help as far as like doing research on your competitors, so you can see like what they typically charge, and try to put together a competitive offer based on that.
Okay, I got some questions. I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure the audience does too. So when you said $200 an hour, and
Mhm.
like, you had that oh shit moment in your head, so there's silence. How long did that silence reverberate? Did it seem longer than it was? Did you say that and in your head like took forever for him to say something back? But in reality, you just thought about it for like 5 10 seconds, like, okay.
Um, no, my trick is whenever I want to like fake maintain eye contact, I look at the person's nose. And
Since we're gonna get into like the sales and like maintaining confidence, I'll throw my 10 cents in there too. A lot of people struggle with like looking people in the eye. If that's a struggle, well, here's the thing: you don't want to have like wandering eyes where you don't even
Mhm.
intend for them to wander, but they're wandering. If that's an issue for you, um, focus on one eye, either the right eye or the left eye, and just look at that eye the whole time. That will stop your eyes from wandering, because your eyes are wandering because you don't realize that you're actually going back and forth between those eyes. Just focus on
Mm,
one eye, and it's not gonna. They're not gonna know you're focusing on just that one eye because you're still looking at them in the eyes, but your eyes won't be wandering.
gotcha. That's pretty cool. Never heard of that.
Yeah, but yeah, the second question, it's more so a statement. I think that's real smart using AI or Chat GPT. Just do some competitive research so you can expand your awareness of the pricing in that industry. Then you'll kind of know like figuring out there's three market price points. There's the cheapest, there's the middle, and then there's the highest price. And you can figure out where you fall in that mix, but you do need to know what are those numbers starting out, and ChatGPT could be a great way to find that out without you having to do all this independent research or finding out through trial and error.
Right. And there's always a market for high quality. So, honestly, if there's always going to be a market for high quality, why not go for that? Why not go for that subsection?
There's a story from Robert Kiyosaki's Before I Quit My Job or Retired, Young Retired, which one of those. But I remember he was talking to one of his friends, and he was tired of like dealing. People were saying he was too expensive. He's a consultant, so he
Mhm.
lowered his rates, and he found that he started to hate what he was doing because he spends so much time haggling with his customers about like his prices instead of actually serving them.
Hmm.
So one day he just said, you know what, I'm raising my rates to the highest in my industry. And what happened was he now works with a better quality client
Hmm.
and he has less clients, but still
Hmm.
makes the same money, if not more money. So he
Hmm.
has more of his time back. And it's the
Yep.
best thing he's ever done.
My most expensive clients say thank you whenever I send work to them.
Hey, there you go.
My Yeah, whenever I've had like lower cost clients, there's always like little requests that I'm happy to accommodate, but higher cost clients don't really ask for much. All they really do is they just ask you to like show up and that's it.
Yeah. Because they've already done the math in their head and they know the outcome that's going to come. You're making them 4 to 5 times what you're paying them by doing your service, and they know it. So just show up, be on time, do a good job, and they're making their money. They're happy, and then they're going to hire you again.
Yep.
And if it's more of a one-off thing, you'd be surprised. These people are very chatty people. Your phone will start ringing like, "Hey, my colleague Paul referred you for your service. Like, are you taking new clients?"
Oh yeah, that's how I got to work with the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, that's beautiful. But actually, this is a great segue into like the next question. So
Hmm.
as far as like gigs go, in your case, because I've lost count of how many times I bumped into you at like different types of events. And with that being the case, are your gigs more like multi-gigged when per client, or are they more sporadic? Like when you're talking to a client, is it more common that like, okay, y'all talk and y'all work something out, and you'll be doing your service for them for the next few months or maybe a month or two? Or is it more so one-offs for like, I just need you for this week?
Um, the way that my clients the way that my clients' projects are, it takes them a long time to get through a project. So a lot of times, for example, a lot of times I try to like tie myself to a project. So let's say for example, if they're like building a school, it's going to take the one that's going on south of Dallas right now is I think estimated to take like 3 years.
Hmm.
And so I'm basically just tying myself to that project. We worked out an agreement where I show up, once a month. I give them like a progress update of the school. Sometimes they ask for a little bit more, like they'll ask for like a map or something like that. And I can easily do that. So, I'll charge a little bit more that month. But yeah, just try to what I try to do is like try to make myself like a presence in their company. So a little bit of a way to make myself indispensable.
Right. So when you go out and get these clients, you're going into it with the mindset of, hey, I want you to be a long-term client. I want to be here for the duration of the whole project, not a one-off. So that plays
Exactly.
a role in how you're kind of prospecting them. Am I right?
Exactly. So my first question to them most of the time is like, what projects are y'all working on right now? That's to get a good idea of what it is that they're doing and how it is that I can help them.
Hmm. Awesome. I want everyone to take note of this because I think in sales, especially when you become self-employed, it's easy to get into this one-off mindset of I make $50 here, $200 here, $300 there, and like that's great now. Then you might need to do that when you're starting out, but develop a mentality of like, hey, I can actually structure this stuff to accommodate and serve them long term if I just take a different approach. Especially once you've already built a portfolio. Like the one offs, that can be more so just to establish a portfolio. But once you have some successes in your portfolio, start pushing for the longer contracts.
You know what? That's actually a really good point. When I first got started, I did have like a few one-offs. So I did have like all these random things that I wouldn't say I felt obligated to say yes to. I was really excited to say yes to like any kind of opportunity that arose. But in that I learned what type of jobs that I like, what type of jobs I didn't like, what type of people I liked working with, what type of people were less fun to work with. So in all that experience, I got a chance to see like, the types of shoots that I like doing. And I got to build a portfolio as well. So almost anytime anyone asks me for something, I can show them, hey, I've done something similar to that already.
Right, right. And I think what we just said kind of answers this question. I'll still go ahead and ask it. I was
Mhm.
going to ask you, like, how do you balance like needing enough gigs to meet like your income goals with having too many gigs that you won't be able to handle within a time frame? But that kind of goes back to the if you have so many one-offs, your schedule is just kind of unpredictable and chaotic. If you have a more structured approach like you have, well, you
Mhm.
know your long-term clients and you know how much work you have to get done. So it's like, okay, do I have time for another client? It's either yes or no versus if you're stuck out in that one-off cycle, it's just more chaotic.
Yes, that's a great point. That's kind of how I decided to build my business. I tried to have like customers that were on like monthly retainers. So I'll
Mhm.
have like certain clients that I can do work with every single month, but then like I fill in the remainder of my time like doing one-offs. For example, like I said over the weekend when they did the construction project, I had a one-off client literally right after that. So my schedule last Friday ran from I had to be on site at 10 p.m. I went from 10 p.m. to 6 or no 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. and then from there I went on to my next client from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. So that was a long night and day. But
I
um
imagine once you got home and you made contact with that bed, it was over. You were KO'd.
actually I fell asleep with the computer on top of me because I was trying to do the my client that did the client that I did for Saturday morning was like a Martin Luther King event, and yeah, the event Martin Luther King Day was yesterday, so they needed the final product by Monday. So I was like going through like editing all the stuff that I needed to edit, and I literally fell asleep like while it was uploading. But
Well, at that point, you were pretty much done at that. It was just uploading. So
yeah, yeah. So I mean, I got through like all the stuff that I needed to get through as far as that client goes, and then like I woke up, and I got a chance to like review some of the work that I had done like the night before and the morning after. But yeah,
have you seen that new Superman movie, Superman 2025?
I have it.
Oh, well, never mind then. I don't want to spoil anything. Well,
All
it's not
right.
that big of a spoiler. It's just like there's a time you probably know that Crypto the dog is in there, right? Like a super dog.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of crypto.
Yeah. There's a moment where Superman goes to sleep and he wakes up and like Crypto is just on top of him, just like looking at him. So you had that moment, but there's your computer staring at you, and it's kind of
Yeah.